Looks like we are live.
We are live. Welcome to the NonCustodials.
Yeah, hello. Welcome. Zach Martin here with Kids Deserve Dads here at the show, the NonCustodials. I think we're on like the 12th episode right now. So welcome back to our 12th episode. For our guest today, we have my favorite lawyer, soon to be my second favorite lawyer when I become a lawyer, but my favorite lawyer, Melissa Isaak. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here, Zach. It's been a while, and you and I have talked a lot over the last few months, and it's always a good time talking to you. And Alicia, I haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to see you again.
A long time.
This whole, like Zach with you and Alicia, your podcast now, you guys are doing exactly what needs to be done, which is reaching people, explaining things, answering questions, easing minds, right? Because that's a big thing. So this is I applaud the both of you.
We're trying.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about for a couple of years now, and like keep debating on and talking about. And then
we're talking about it for a while.
We kind of got back into Alicia and I got back into working on bills in Wyoming, and we're talking about how we're going to get into it. And with me studying for the bar, this year wasn't the year. And so what we decided was that how can we make an impact and set ourselves up to be successful going forward more in this realm. And so this was one of the ways that we thought would be really impactful, is to get people like yourself on here. We've had a few dads who have gone through these experiences, talking about their experiences. And then our intentions to even work with a lot of the dads and moms we have around Wyoming and South Dakota. So we have the personal stories from the legislators who we'll be going and talking to about these bills. And they can look back on and see, here's the things that my constituents are actually going through and faced with. So it's been really wonderful, and we got some work to do on it still. It's a work in progress, but
we're beginners.
I'm blessed to have a great co-host, Alicia. She's amazing, and we have a ton of fun. So
it's fun more than anything. I think it's inspiring. So, and more than anything, just knowing you're not alone, and in your experiences. It's really relevant, and it helps out a lot. So,
oh yeah, I mean, if you haven't gone through it personally, then you know someone, at least one person who has, and
right.
you know their story intimately. So this is not something, I know people, they feel like they're alone, they feel like the only ones going through this, but it really, podcasts like yours, the internet's great. Like, these podcasts are great because it turns people who have stories to tell into journalists and into storytellers, where they can bring other people together. So yeah, absolutely. Everybody who's watching you is connecting in some form or fashion. And you never know what you say. You'll say something and somebody will latch onto that. And it could change the way they handle their situation. It'll change their perception. And it might even change the outcome of their cases. So you know what? You got to swing for the fences. You never know.
Yeah.
Swing for the fences. Yes.
Got to. If you're not talking about it, you can't make that difference, right? Because my experience of going through it was a very isolating and lonely place. And so when people reached out to me, I felt connected with them. But I wasn't reaching out. I reached out, but I wasn't reaching out necessarily to get people to listen to my stories and that kind of stuff as much as I probably needed. And I feel like a lot of other people also don't reach out, but that hearing your friends and other people talk about what they've gone through is so powerful, because it feels like you're the only person being singled out, and in this situation you are in your case, but that in life you're part of a huge network and connection of men and women who are being abused by the system for profit, and it's terrible, and it's really sad, but that's what we're here today to fix, and we've been really committed to working on. And everywhere when I first met you is in DC, and just to get to hear you talk, and you and Jesse were together and stuff the whole time, and it was fantastic to just get to be in that space with so many inspirational men and women who are involved in this, and get to hear all the work that you and everybody else are doing. So I kind of want to start off today.
Hold on. Time out. Just time out on the DC part. And I don't want to break for any technical difficulties. Did you do something different to your microphone when you started talking? Melissa, are you getting any that feedback, that buzzing?
A little bit of buzzing and feedback when you talk, Zach.
Oh, awesome. How about, does that sound better?
I'm not sure. Talk some more.
How about now? Does that sound better?
A little bit, but
I
I don't know what you did when we first started. It wasn't there, but
I don't know what it was. When I was going to do the TikTok thing with was my initial plan. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. There's just like there's a buzz.
Oh, there's still
on your audio.
Yeah, it might be because my computer's running hot.
We just want a good recording.
Is this better now?
Not really.
Okay, let's see if I can.
I don't know what you did, because it was just fine when we first started.
I didn't.
Sorry, Melissa.
It's okay. Now we can't hear you at all, Zach.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that sounds better, I think.
Okay, it's my headphones are doing everything now, so.
Okay,
that's better.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, technical difficulties, the joys. Yes, my computer fan did kick on, and obviously
maybe that's what it was. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I can't hear it now, but I definitely could hear it before. So,
Sorry.
anyways, no, it's okay. No, thank you for stopping it and getting it straightened out. I was getting ready to go into, we talked about DC, but I was really want to talk about what your experience was, Melissa. How did you get involved in to be a lawyer? I guess tell us your background. Why is this important to you?
So my background really fueled my desire to be an attorney. And I wanted to be an attorney to do this, to help parents. I didn't, and the thing is, I never really set out to say, I'm going to be a father's rights attorney. I'm just going to limit my representation to men. That's ultimately what happened. But I never set out for that because some of the kids I grew up with, I spent some time in foster care because of the actions of my mother, right? Not my father, because of the actions of my mother. And I really did not get to have a true bond, a good, meaningful relationship with my dad growing up because my mother just didn't allow it. And you're looking, back in the 80s and in the 90s, this was not something, father's rights, that was on the tip of no one's tongue in the 80s and 90s. No one, right? I mean, in the 80s too, it was, the mother made a claim and fathers just knew that they were going to pay child support and have visitation. You just knew that. In fact, the tender years doctrine wasn't even done away with until the 80s. It was done away with on the books, but it was still very much, enforced. But so going through this and seeing, my mother's a tiny little lady, she's, 4'10", she's tiny. And my dad, when he got back from the Marines, he's like, 6'4", he was this Marine. And then he was a firefighter who worked shift work. And everybody knows shift work is always a problem with, with custody schedules. Mm-hmm. But it was always amazing to me how she could just make these claims, outrageous claims, and no one questioned her, ever. No one ever questioned her. So as a child, I'm watching this. And one thing in particular that comes to mind is my stepmother came and she was going to invite us to my cousin's birthday party. When my mother got mad, she grabbed the invite, she ripped it up and she threw it down. She threw a punch at my stepmother. I mean, the police were called. And this was the kind of things, this was the kind of environment that I grew up in. It was very contentious. And we just knew, like, you just don't say, I want to go to my dad's house, because and then you suffer the consequences, whether it be, oh, you don't love me. He doesn't love you. He doesn't want to take care of you. So just a very superficial outlook on overview, I guess, of how I grew up. And it wasn't, a relationship with my dad really wasn't an option. But as I got older, the allegations increased. Right, there were allegations of sexual misconduct on my dad's part. And really for me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back because it was all a lie. So I became very vocal in my adolescent years against her. In fact, I was 17 years old and I told her, when you are willing to take responsibility for everything that you've done to me, to my sisters, to people I love, then we can have a relationship. it's been decades since then, right? Still no relationship. And, and then I have no choice but to be fine with that. And I'm fine with that. But that experience really fueled my desire to be an attorney. And, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I really thought, in my mind, well, they just don't know better. They don't understand. The judge doesn't understand. The social worker, they don't know. Like, when I grow up, I'm going to let them know. Like, I'm going to be this person that says, hey, this isn't how it works, right? And then you become that person that says, hey, this isn't how it works. And you realize, wait a minute, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, and you see, it's just this revolving door. And you see these men in there in the courtroom, just pleading with the court. And there's some of these judges, just a blank expression on their face, but we'll get back to that. But so that's really what fueled me to go to law school, is the way I grew up. And, and there were a lot of, let me just say, when you have alienation, it becomes generational in that you are pitted, you're at odds with your own family. And when you're at odds with your own family, your nuclear family, okay, when you grow up and have that family, chances are you're going to be at odds with that family as well, right? And if your kids grow up and then they get married, odds are they're going to be at odds with their family, and you're going to be at odds with their family. And this whole generational thing just continues. So, and it's sad because we know this, the experts know this, everybody knows this, and nothing ever changes. Everything stays the same. So before I went to law school, I was a child adolescent therapist, and it was fantastic for me because I got to spend a lot of time with my boss, who was a child psychiatrist, and just the conversations that we would have was fantastic for me. Like, I felt like I was, free therapy, and I'm just a screwed up, 20 something, I stumbled through my 20s, So, and just all the, the life lessons that I've learned along the way. And then when I did go to law school, it was like, I had 2 master's degrees at that time, but there was always a void. I always knew that I had to do something about the way I grew up. I wanted to help other people. So went to law school. One of my lowest grades in law school was family law. All right. Because I'm arguing with the professor. I'm like, this is wrong, but this doesn't make any sense. This is wrong. Right. And then, these law school professors, I mean, they, that old adage, and I found this to be true, is, those who can do and those who can't teach. Well, I really found that to be true with my family law professor. Because I would bring up these instances or bring up these real life scenarios, and they would say, oh, no, that doesn't work that way in the real world. Actually, yes, it does, because I was there and that's what happened and that's what is happening. So, one of my lowest grades in law school was in family law because I argued with the professor. But
me also. I got a D in family law.
I almost did. All right, because even on my essays, I mean, I wrote the truth in my essays, and the truth is not well received in the area of family law at all. No. So
I did a paper on parental alienation, and that was she pointed out the paragraph that's dedicated to that in the textbook that we have. Mm-hmm. And the paragraph basically says that it's bunk science, and there's only one paragraph at the end of like a section at page 1137, and it's like, oh yeah, and parental alienation, that's garbage. And her and I went rounds about parental alienation and therapy for kids going through family court, and I mean, it was basically I went to class and it was just a battle every day. So I'm sure the same experience that you had was like, I can't believe this is going on. And this person's here teaching these other young college students who have no personal experience in any of this stuff, all these things that are not really what's happening, and how, and not teaching how the system's destroying families and people's lives.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it, because mine was 2 years ago. So
yeah. I wanted to ask real quick, you were talking about your memories of like the situation with the invitation and things like that. How far back do you think you can remember? What was the age that you remember those kind of experiences happening?
The youngest I can recall, I was 3 years old, and I know I was 3 because my mother was pregnant with my youngest sister, and my younger sister was born a month before I turned 4. So I was 3 years old, but I remember my dad would come and, we lived in the trailer park up in North Dakota, and it was wintertime. So my dad came, he's knocking at the door, he's asking to see us. And, the door is just cracked, she's looking out. Kids don't want to see you. They don't want to see you. And I remember she was pregnant, so I know I was 3. But I remember I was looking through the crack of the door and I saw my dad, and I just remember getting so excited. And I remember saying, "No, Dad," and then she'd shut the door, and then I'd get in trouble. But she would say, "They don't want to see you. The kids, they hate you." Or she would make comments to us. If I'd say, "Well, I want to see my dad," she would say, "Your dad wants nothing to do with you. He wanted me to get an abortion. He wanted me to kill you, but I wouldn't do it." And there was always something inside of me, even as a small child. I'm like, "Yeah, no, I think you're a liar."
Yeah, my dad wouldn't say that.
And I remember too, my younger sister was born, but I was maybe 4 or 5, maybe. But she was talking to my dad on the phone, telling him something that I had done, at the time I believed I didn't do, but then started saying, "She doesn't want to see you. Melissa doesn't want to see you." I took a scissor and I cut the phone cord, and I was like, till this day, I'm like, "You go, little kid. Oops, so you go, girl. That was good." Cut that phone cord. But for me, there was always a pushback from her. I can't say that my siblings had the same pushback, because I think everybody takes, you take child abuse, you take alienation differently. And, some of my siblings internalized things that I didn't, which I'm glad I didn't. But I always knew that she was kind of full of it, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it took until you were in high school, basically, for you to be able to leave and spend time with your dad.
Yeah, and really it was after high school. High school for me was probably it was the most tumultuous time. And I tell people too, like, I'm going to take that law degree off the wall. I'm going to put my high school diploma up there, because that's the one that, like, I'm really proud of. I'm really glad. That was the hardest one for me. And through my high school years too, there was a lot of back and forth. I had to switch schools, switch counties my senior year. I was in foster care during that time. And, and I want to
was that during you were in foster care during high school, junior high?
Mm-hmm, during high school. Well, so we were initially, there was an order of protection takeaway. We were, in juvenile court when I was in middle school. And then, they were big into reunification, if you remember, like in the 80s, 90s, big. So then we would always go back, and then something would happen. We'd have to leave again. But high school was just a very tumultuous time for me. But here's the thing too, is I think when you have alienation, you have relationships that are not solid. I didn't at the time feel like my dad was a resource for me. And honestly, my dad didn't know how I was going to react. And think of it too, that this is before cell phones. We didn't have cell phones back then, right? We don't have the computer technology. The opportunity to communicate with my dad and I just wasn't there. Like now, I mean, there's kids that can reach out. They can reach out through their Xbox. They have cell phones. They can use their friends' cell phones. So there's more opportunity for communication that I really didn't have when I was younger. So that relationship, that bond really wasn't established until after, I graduated high school, and I was, I didn't have to talk to social workers anymore. There wasn't a distance between us. I had a mother who really, I couldn't trust what she said. I couldn't trust anything. And at this point too, she had made some pretty bad allegations against my father. And so, with impunity, by the way, right? Nothing ever happened to her. And so I don't blame my dad.
Say anything you want in family court, right? You can say whatever you want. And
you say what you want with impunity.
Yeah.
So
in fact, I like the randomness. Let's bring up extra drama. More drama, the better in family court.
So it was an effort on the part of my dad and I think, after I graduated high school, to really to form that bond, because then, I was a baby when my parents separated. I'm not even sure I ever lived with my dad in the same household after I was born. So there was, and then there were, when I say there's times we didn't get to see him, I just don't mean, we missed like 3 months. I mean, there was probably years gaps in there where we didn't get to see him. And, my mother just didn't think he was important. And so, in the things so I grew up going, we lived in the trailer park. We went to public housing. We had people giving us free. I mean, I was always moving around as a kid, I was on Medicaid. All that was unnecessary. My dad was a productive member of society. He could have provided medical insurance so those taxpayers my dad didn't have to burden them taking care of me. But that's not the way it went. But again, we're dealing with the 80s and 90s, and it was not the time at all for, father's rights again was on the tip of no one's tongue. So things have gotten better in some respects. But no, we still have a very long way to go. But that's what fueled me to get into this area of the law, because I can tell you something. If you want to, people say, oh, attorneys, they have plenty of money. They've got, multiple houses. They have all this stuff. Okay. If you want to make sure you're not rich, go into family law, right? And especially go into family law where you have a heart, where you can't get rid of clients just because they can't pay, right? So,
right.
I've been in practice for 15 years, and I have never had a complaint for overbilling in 15 years, ever. Never.
That's good.
In fact, there's been, comments by other attorneys why I don't bill enough, why I bill so low. So, but it really is a passion area for me, because, you look at the advocates in this movement, right? For lack of a better word, because it is a movement, but push fuels passion, right? And passion fuels advocacy. But we all start from this point of this place of anguish that makes you want to get involved and makes you want to make change and makes you want to help other people so they don't have to go through the same thing you went through, or if they are going through what you went through, at least you can connect with them and kind of help them through it.
Right. Exactly. There was a question over here, Zach. Did you see that?
I did not see it. Which question?
I got it. Hold on. So it says, what is, oh, it's Ken. It's Rosa.
Rosa.
He said, what is the most effective way to file a judicial complaint against a judge or ethics complaint for attorneys doing unethical things in your court cases?
So all the states are different. In Alabama, so I'm barred in 2 states. I'm barred in Alabama and I'm barred in Florida. Florida, things are public record. So, you can file bar complaints and you can discuss bar complaints. Alabama, everything is confidential. So if you file, it's called a JIC complaint. They have a Judicial Inquiry Commission. So there's a commission of judges and there's a commission of some civilians. But you file your complaint and then you don't know. Right? You don't know what happens. You don't know the evaluation process. So because all these things are confidential. Now, I did have some conversations with some legislators some years back about changing that and making everything public, but it never went anywhere. Same thing with bar complaints. Bar complaints are confidential in the state of Alabama. So now if you receive some sort of punishment, whether it be a reprimand or a disbarment or whatnot, the outcome becomes public, and they'll give like a little synopsis of why. But it's different in every state. But so I can only speak to Alabama and Florida. But in Alabama, if you have an issue with a lawyer, you file a bar complaint. You can go to the Alabama State Bar website. They have complaint forms. You fill it out. You attach all your evidence, and you send it into the bar. They take that and they send it to the attorney, and the attorney, has a certain amount of time to answer. And then they do an investigation from that. And in Florida, I'm not familiar with the Florida process on that, so I can't really tell you on that. But then for judges in Alabama, it's the Judicial Inquiry Commission, and it's the same process. You file your complaint, it goes to the commission. And I think they pretty much tell you they took action or not. But I'm not that familiar with the process. Haven't been in the process, but it's very little information from what I understand as to the outcome, as to the process, I guess, of how they made their decision. But yeah.
Is there a statute of is there a time period where you can't go after your lawyer and stuff, or is there
6 years? 6 years.
Yep.
Wow. So bar complaints in Alabama go back for 6 years. And there's some states you can go back as far as you want to. But in Alabama, they won't entertain or investigate any misconduct that's past 6 years old.
Right. Should be enough time you can heal from the damage the lawyer caused you and lick your wounds, and then feel energized to go back and get him again.
Or you're still in court that whole time.
Or that.
6 years. It sounds about right for time in.
Yeah, in court time,
Probably
right?
longer.
2 years is the minimum, right? What do you think? Why do you think it takes so long to go through a family court case, Melissa?
I will say this. When I get served when my client gets served and they bring in the paperwork, because we're the defendants like 80% of the time, right? We're the defendants. So the first thing you do is you look at who's your lawyer and who's your judge. And I can tell my clients with certainty that this is going to be over in the next 6 months, or we're going to be here and for the next 3 years. And this is what's going to happen. So I had a guy come in, and based upon the attorneys and based upon the way the court case went, and I said, listen, these lawyers know me. As soon as I file a notice of appearance, right, I'm going to file my notice of appearance and I'm going to hit him with discovery, a ton of discovery. We're going to send subpoenas. I said, but listen, you're going to get arrested. Okay. And he's like, no, I'm going to get arrested. I don't do anything wrong. I said, listen, you're going to get arrested for domestic violence. So you have cameras up, you record. He just thought I was crazy. So it was a few weeks later, I get a call and he was like, Miss Melissa, you're not going to believe what happened. And I said, what? And he goes, I got arrested. And I said, oh, no, I know. I told you where you were. And he goes, I can't believe it. You were right. I'm like, I know these lawyers. I know how the lawyers work. But it's really sad when you have lawyers and every single female that I've had a case with, every single female that they represent, where I'm the attorney for the husband, is a victim of domestic violence, and not a single one sticks, and we end up getting 50-50 and or full custody in these cases. How does that work? So, unfortunately, when you say, so why do these cases last so long? I think, I had a conversation with one of my lawyers today about that. Is clients follow the lead of their lawyers? They do. All right. So I have clients that come in and they're upset and I don't know what to do. Okay. What are my options? And so my question is, what do you want? Right. What do you want? What are you? Well, I want to have equal time. Okay. All right. You want equal time. Well, but should I go for full custody? I don't know. Is she a good mom? Yeah, no, she's a good mom. Then why would you go for full custody? Then that's my question back at them. Why would you go for full custody? Well, I guess because she's, she had an affair with so-and-so. Okay, well, look, you can be a really bad husband, but you're a fantastic dad, okay? But anytime, and in 15 years, I've never violated this rule. If a client tells me she's a good mom, as far as I'm concerned, sole custody's off the table. Why would you do that if she's a good mom, right? So, but not everybody is like that. In fact, the majority of attorneys are not like that. They're going to say, "Oh my goodness, okay, he he destroyed this relationship. The kids don't mean anything," and so the lawyers will kind of get the clients riled up. And I can't tell you how many times clients come in and say, "Well, we had this worked out. We had everything done, and then she just went to the attorney to have the papers drawn up, and I don't know how I got this." Okay, and then so many times women will say, "Well, no, I told them I wanted that, and they wouldn't do it. They told me I had to file this other thing," but they go along with it, which is odd to me. But clients follow the lead of their lawyers. That they do. And I will say that this caveat is it's getting more difficult. Let me start over and say that I think clients either come in and their cases either get resolved or they're getting more contentious, it seems. And I don't know, 50-50 is more common. We have the younger judges coming on the bench are proponents of 50-50 custody. So, this turnover in judges has been fantastic. I'm going to say it's been great, especially the female judges, because they're not as, they don't take sympathy on the female litigants like the older male judges do. They don't. I mean, you have a woman in there saying how hard it is to be a working mom, and have kids at home, when every single judge that we're in front of nowadays pretty much is a working mom that has kids at home. Like we all know it's doable.
Right. Yeah, everybody's doing that nowadays. I mean, there's very few stay-at-home parents, and if you're separated, everybody has to work then for sure. So.
But it is sad because it does seem like there is, and I don't know if the media is reporting it more, but it does seem like there is more contention in the contentious cases than there has been in the past.
I just wanted
to go ahead, Alicia.
Sorry. So when you were talking about the situation that you always warn people about and the charges being brought, etc. I'm not going to name any names at this point, but there's a certain attorney out of Houston, and I would say you are a obviously pro-dad attorney. Mm-hmm. This individual claims to be, the single mom lawyer attorney. Anyway, on her, there's a Facebook post talking about the people that work in her office. And one of the individuals, it says her name. I'm not going to call it out there, but it says, our Houston associate attorney obtained over 30 protective orders in just 12 months by dedicating her career to helping survivors of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's completely silly, but that's one of the things they'll brag on, because it's like, you obtained 30 protection orders, but we all know, they even know, it's just, it's ridiculous for that to be some kind of issue that they're going to,
I had a counselor. Yeah, I had a counselor testify as a witness in one of my cases last month, and she was very honest. And I said, how common are false allegations of abuse or domestic violence in custody cases? She said, extremely common. They're very common. Yeah. So this isn't something where, I had a cross-examined an expert on in a very big case a few years back. And, he had said that false allegations are they're uncommon. I mean, less than 1% of allegations are false, which was funny because it was a jury trial. And when we were doing jury venire, we asked you how many, raise your hand. How many of you have been falsely accused of something you didn't do? Every hand of the jury went up, every single hand. So you have this expert, right, sitting up there saying, oh no. I said, so if somebody's accused of something, odds are they're guilty. And he's like, absolutely. And I said, but you've never been accused of anything, have you? Because you haven't done anything wrong. He's like, no, I haven't. But he didn't know the conversation or the questions we had for the jury. So that really kind of played into our hand. But I don't know of anybody who hasn't been falsely accused of something. So 30 protective orders, I could probably count on one hand in 15 years how many protective orders I've gotten on behalf of men, right? This is because we don't file them unless they need them, okay? We don't falsely accuse somebody of domestic violence. We don't do anything we really can't prove. So, and that's literally, I could probably count, there's probably 5 or less in 15 years because now, not that we haven't had clients who were victims of domestic violence, but men don't do that. They don't want to do that. There's some cases where it's necessary, but for the most part, they don't want to do that. Had a conversation with somebody, with, a couple people in law enforcement over the last couple of weeks, right? They were victims of domestic violence. And then my question is, then how do you go to these houses of these people? And there's allegations that he is beating me or whatever, when he's the one with blood running down, and like, no, I'll take her to jail. I'll arrest her. We are seeing more women get arrested for domestic violence, and that's, awareness is being raised. And then you have a lot of law enforcement officers who themselves are victims of domestic violence or false allegations.
Right.
They, in the court system, if I was a judge, right, I would say you better have a damn good reason for asking the court to limit another parent's custodial time. I mean, a damn good reason, because I can't tell you how sick and tired I am of going in and litigating custody cases. Well, he's a horrible father, right? My child ate ice cream at 10 o'clock p.m. and they went to bed without brushing their damn teeth. I'm like, wait, were you at the house last weekend? Because I'm pretty sure my kid did that too, right? Like,
right. Did they even brush all weekend?
Maybe, but no, my kids right now, right? My kids are probably, I think they're in there eating Jell-O with their daddy, right? Is it the thing to eat at 7:30 at night, like whatever time it is? I don't know. But you know what? My kids are happy and they're with their daddy and they're fine. But if we got a divorce, oh, judge, and it wasn't even the sugar-free Jell-O. It was the sugar.
It gives them Jell-O.
I mean, the stupidest things that she lets them brush their teeth with toothpaste without fluoride. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, did you just say that? Like, did you just say that? But it's not about, the welfare of the children comes down to, well, how many servings of vegetables a week does he feed them versus you feed them versus, I'm like, are we seriously doing this when parenting is already been recognized as a fundamental constitutional right? And I'm pretty sure they didn't discuss vegetable intake, right, in the Troxel case, but yet we're sitting there, we're having these conversations about small differences in parenting that's doing this child much more harm than it is to, on a Saturday night, going to bed without brushing your teeth. It gets old.
It's
very old.
Those kind of things are just, it's like, what's really important for the kids, and it's getting to spend that time, getting to have that interaction with both their parents, getting to see how they live their life, and then get to be in that relationship with them around those experiences, going to bed, eating food, going and seeing other people and socializing and having that opportunity to have both their parents makes a huge difference. And dads and moms do it differently. I know so many moms are like, oh, I'm a dad too. Well, you can't be a dad because you don't have you're not a dad. You just can't. And without actually being a man, you can't understand the experience of what it is to be a man. And I couldn't explain or understand what it's like to be a woman because I've never had that opportunity and I don't plan on it. So,
and I know of a couple women who are single moms, not because they chose that. One of the child's fathers is deceased and the other one just doesn't come around. And what makes me so angry about those situations is that you take those two situations, even like the child's father who's deceased can't do anything about that, right? Now, what needs to happen is the community, and the community does, come in and be a resource, right? But then then she's out there and she's a single mom, right? I would do anything in my power to help her. We have the other one, the daddy won't come around. I'll do anything in my power to help her. But what this one dad who's still here apparently doesn't care, right, is the detriment to this son, who's a fantastic athlete, by the way. I mean, a fantastic athlete, that these coaches are taking the place of these fathers, or the teachers are taking the place of the fathers, or people at church, or pastors or ministers. But and then you have the one whose daddy has passed, right? And we can see the importance. And this little boy never met his daddy, but there's pictures of this little boy crying at the graveyard. Like, he's crying because he craves his daddy. Now, he's never met his daddy, but it shows how important our daddies. They're so important. But we know this, right? But we as a society, we're like, oh, we know that. Just like we know McDonald's is bad for you, but you're like right there in the drive-thru, right? Getting McDonald's. So I think, at some point, we as individuals, we have to walk the walk, right? We talk the talk. That's easy. We can all do that. We all have a keyboard, but you have to walk the walk. So, and really what hurts everybody, what hurts our cause, what hurts our movement, is these fathers who stay away by choice. And there's a lot of them. I hate to say that. I hate it, but at some point, I think in this advocacy, I took the rose-colored glasses off and realized not everybody's situation was mine. Not everybody's situation was my father's. Right. But we as advocates, we have to walk the walk in terms of, if you're an advocate and you by choice don't see your child, right, you are doing more harm, not only to your child, but to this cause. There's been so many, I've been in this a long time, and I've talked to legislators, I've talked to other advocates who have left because of other advocates. But we as advocates, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a dad, whether you're a social worker, whether you work at a grocery store, whoever you are, you be the best parent that you can possibly be. And I understand that a lot of people, you have boundaries set up for you. The judges are keeping you out. The court is keeping you out. But you be the best dad to the ability that you can. And I'm telling you, in my experience, things turn around. They do turn around. But you have to keep your emotions in check. That's one big thing, is keep your emotions in check. But it's sad to see, it's sad to see my clients come in and they're fighting so hard and they just want to see their children. And then you see, like this, the little boys that I'm acquainted with, that don't have dads, and their moms would do anything to their mamas would do anything for them to have daddies,
Right. And then, and it really is unfortunate. And you see that juxtaposition. I saw a meme recently that's talking about that exact same thing. Like, there's so many women out there keeping their kids from their dads, and there's so many dads out there just choosing to not be involved, and dads that are choosing out are hurting the other dads. And I think part of the system we have has reinforced that. Like, guys have been have seen their friends, their family members, probably their parents get separated, and it seems futile and not going to happen. So it's easier to walk away. You don't have to deal with any more fighting or any more damage with this other person, because it's all just too much. But you have to overcome that, and that's really one of the things that I really talk about with a lot of people is hitting the gym, going for walks, going for hikes, hanging out with friends. Like, you need to have those outlets, and not drinking time with your friends, right, or smoking pot with your friends and stuff, but like actually time where you're out there going for a hike or going throwing a baseball around or shooting some hoops. Work your body. Especially as men, we're workhorses. We're meant to do hard things, and you need to get out there and push yourself and get that energy out, and that energy being released will help you then when you're having those times with your kids to be more present and more connected and loving and caring, even when you're stressed. But that you need to get that energy out of your system, and it's important to take the time to do all those things. And I think a lot of guys miss it. And when you don't have your kids, and if you're going through this stuff, one of the most important things you can do is take care of yourself physically, eat healthy foods, drink water, not beer, and go to the gym, push your body, because it will ease your mind and help you be more connected and focused on the kind of dad you need to be. So,
and I'll say this too. I think men, when you're vulnerable, stay away from women. Just stay away from women. I think men, your judgment gets so impaired when you're vulnerable. Women, correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, but women can smell vulnerability in a man. Okay, they can. And I've had so many clients, and they say, I'm never getting married again. I'm never doing this again. And I'm like, you know what? In 6 months, when you call me and tell me you're getting married, okay, you better come out, because I'm going to slap you upside the head. Like, stay away from women. But
I don't want to say, I don't want to say it's like smell vulnerability, but it's more like, I don't know. They seem, you're like, oh, something's wrong with him. He's so sad, or he's going through this. And so I think initially it starts off as something innocent, as you want to support this person, maybe. But Melissa, you're right. Never mind. Just forget everything. I just
and
said.
I don't tell my girlfriend a lot of stuff I'm going through, right? Like, I keep a lot of the stuff that happened to me and my son's mom away from my girlfriend, because I don't want to have our relationship based upon that. And I've slipped here and there and like shared some stuff with her, and her having animosity towards my son's mom doesn't help us have a better relationship, and having somebody on my team to like beat up on my son's mom sitting around, that's not supportive of us having a better relationship, and also me getting over the things that I'm doing with my son's mom, and so finding an appropriate outlet, another, when you're guy friends or a friend in the movement, you can call your lawyer, but a lot of them will charge you, but find somebody who who can do this stuff, who's willing to be there for you and let you vent too.
But Zach, you're not in a vulnerable position like a lot of these men are. And I think what I see as the most vulnerable men, they overlook the red flags. Okay. So let me say this to the men out there. Okay. You are no one's knight in shining armor. You are no one's knight in shining armor. Okay. Because knights in shining armor, you know where they end up? In child support court, in paternity court, in custody court. That's where they end up. Okay. Yes. So if you meet someone, and she's beautiful, and you're just taken in by her, right? And the last 5 guys she's dated, they've all abused her. You are abuser number 6. Okay. Whether you do it or not, people have patterns. Okay. So when you meet someone who's a victim and they're so free, when they barely even know you, to discuss all this victimhood, run away. Okay. So when I do consultations, we go over like histories, right? We talk about, where did you meet? Like, what is her history? Does she have any exes? I mean, how many other children? And they say, well, she had 2 children from 2 men before, but they only see them on the weekends and they pay child support. Oh, did they not want to see them? No, they didn't want to see them. Well, then I look it up. Oh, they didn't want to see them. But did you know they fought in court for 3 years to see their child? No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Let's see. Now you're daddy number 3. And what are you doing now? Fighting in court to see your kids. All right. So and this is just, I've spoken to thousands of men. This might sound blunt, but when men are vulnerable, they make very, very bad decisions. Okay. It's like Melissa in her 20s, bad decisions. Okay. We've all been there, done that. We've all had those relationships. You look back and you're like, the hell was I thinking? Right. Because it was a weakness. So, but that would be like, you overlook red flags that you wouldn't normally overlook. And honestly, through this process, my recommendation is through this process, whether you realize it or not, you're probably vulnerable. I like what Zach is saying, go to the gym, change your diet, read up on things, become a subject matter expert on the area of alienation in the world, co-parenting or something. But you know what? Stay away from bars and women, right? They seem to be a combination when you're vulnerable.
I just think that's good advice for anyone going through this situation,
especially if you're in family court.
Just personally, from personal
get healed, get over it before you start trying to build something new with somebody else. It's such a destructive place, and it is so damaging. And if you're going through that, you have a lot of healing to come through. There's a lot of mistrust and lies and pain, and those things need to be worked through, and you need to work them on your own, because if you're with somebody else and you get involved when you're in those spots, you're gonna cause pain to that relationship. You're gonna hurt that relationship and yourself, and you're never gonna get the chance to get all that clarity and healing in yourself, so you can be that man and see those red flags and see the value in yourself enough to go, I don't need a girl who's got these issues. I'll just go I'll go look for the next one, and I'll wait, because I'm really good right now as I am. And I think that's so important for guys to go through them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we talked about was.
I got a question.
Oh, you got a question? You want go for it?
Did you see
Chris's question? I was going to do this one right here, because we had a couple talks about this before we even got on the show. Really perfect. About some of the laws, the flaws in the laws we see right now, and then things that you want to see change, like maybe best interest of the child, the preponderance of the evidence, or clearing. What are your thoughts on those? What are some major flaws that you want to see done?
Best interest is a train wreck. Okay. And you can watch the train as it wrecks. And the problem with the best interest is it lacks definition, and it lacks any sort of certainty for parents or lawyers. The best interest of the child means whatever the judge says it means, but the judge doesn't have to tell you what they think it means, right? The judge just, this, I find this to be in the best interest of the child. So you could have, I've had arguments over extracurriculars where mom says, I don't want my child to play football. I mean, football is dangerous, and people, children get hurt playing football. And then we have a dad saying, what are you talking about? This is Alabama, right? This is this is the SEC Mecca. Like, what are you talking about? And the judge could say, you know what? I had a nephew who got hurt playing football. So yeah, I'm going to go with mom on this one.
Let's weigh the factors.
Yes, but but the factors are, you look at the factors. The factors are, you have the relationship, the respective relationships of the parents with the child. Okay, it's very subjective. You have the financial stability of the parties, but by law you can't use poverty against a parent. So I'm not really sure what you're weighing there. And then you have the age and gender of the child. Alabama still has that, right? Unconstitutional, but it's still on the books, right? But nobody says anything. So you have these, social needs, any special needs of the child. You have all these factors that the judge looks at, but you could go either way on any given day, right? And you could be in a courthouse with 3 judges, side by side, and you could walk in all three courtrooms and get three different definitions. So when I said, when I get a complaint in, I look at who the lawyer is, but I also look at who the judge is, because there are some judges who said openly, I will never do 50-50. I will never order 50-50. So I say on the record, well, no, you have to at least consider it because the statute says, and you just said you're not going to consider this, right? So, and the judges are very, they were blatant, just blatant with it. So, we have a very successful appellate practice. We filed a mandamus just a few days ago. But the problem is that the judges have discretion, and they don't have to tell you why they're ruling that way. So here you have the right to parent your child is a fundamental constitutional right, which anybody in law school 101 says that anytime you have something as a fundamental constitutional right, this strict scrutiny test has to apply, where the government interference has to be basically minimal, right? That the least restrictive means is possible. Yet family court, for some reason, they give themselves a pass. Oh, that doesn't apply to us. But yet there's this whole line of Supreme Court law that says, no, the Constitution does apply to you. And
I just want to point out, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but just real quick, because that what you were just saying, it's so interesting, because if you look at cases of actual child abuse or neglect or things like that, with, situations with the Department of Family Services and things like that, where they get involved and there's court cases, those parents in those criminal cases of, charged abuse and neglect, they have more rights and always get more time with those kids than any person going through, most of the time. I'm obviously not in very severe cases, but if it's some, more minor abuse or neglect situation, they get probably supervised, but way more time with their kids that they've supposedly abused or neglected than even an unmarried father gets after a court process. And so I just,
and they get
it's absolutely insane. But that's why, because the state knows that exactly what you're talking about, and that applies in those courts, in those district courts and things like that, but not.
It does. But when you're dealing with CPS, DCF, DHR, whatever it is called in the respective states too, those are Title IV-D, Title IV-B. You have all these different Title IV agencies where the state gets money from keeping litigation in court, right? They get the attorneys are paid by the state. So it's a the way the money shifts in DCF cases, DHR cases, CPS cases, is shift than in regular DR cases. But you're right, parents do have more protections in those cases. The juvenile code is huge. I mean, the statute here in Alabama is huge for the juvenile code, and the parental protections are great. And in fact, there was an amendment made to our Constitution, the Alabama Constitution, last year, basically that applies. It basically codified troxel in terms of a parent against a third party, not parent against parent, but parent
against state.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So where you have more of a clear and convincing sort of evidence thing. So, and then, there was a lot of pushback on making that into the just regular divorce cases. There was a lot of pushback, but no, you're absolutely right. There are more.
Sorry, I just wanted to.
You're absolutely right.
It's one of those things that's nuts.
Well, and I think, and another area we're having problem with, and have this issue up in mandamus right now, is the judges really don't have any accountability. So if I file a motion, is there a reason that it sits there for 6 months and I can file a renewed motion and a second renewed motion, and it just sits there? So I did a mandamus, and the court reporter would not give us the transcript. Would not. So, like a child, I have to go tell mommy and daddy, hey, Court of Appeals, they won't give me the transcript, right? To kind of throw a fit. But there's nothing in the statute that says that it has to be given to us in any certain amount of time, even though it could affect the outcome or the success of our appeals. There's nothing that says that judges have to rule with any certain amount of time. I've had uncontested divorces where people come in, they agree on everything, they sign the paperwork, submit it to the court. A year later, they're still not divorced. Like I don't understand why this takes so long. When you have a divorce trial, why 4 months later are these parties still sitting in limbo with children being, rubber banded all over the place, back and forth? So you look at just the accountability of judges. Now, what I don't like either is the fact, I think that if you're involved at all in the judicial branch, if you're a lawyer, if you're a judge, whatever, you shouldn't be allowed to be in the legislative branch. So we have some of our lawyers who are also legislators. And then where do you think judicial immunity came from? Like, where do you think that came from? So
the legislators.
The legislators who might just also be lawyers. But how is it that you have these litigants who are tied up in the family court system and the judges are just inactive? The judges just don't rule. Like, I had a case where this woman was just coked out. We file a motion for a drug test, right? We file the motion. I call the judge's office. I email the judge, copied opposing counsel, of course. This is urgent. This is urgent. I think it was 3 months later, she entered the order for the hair follicle test, which the mother still failed miserably, right? But she had 3 months to clean it up. And
right.
How much damage can be done to a child whose mom was coked out in 3 months? A lot of damage. So that's another heartache, I think, just as an attorney. You're dealing with these litigants who need immediate relief or need the court to address this, and it sits there for months. But yet you can't do anything about it. But anyway, I'll get off that.
It takes so long. It's like, I've done the classes on civil procedure, right? And there's the most dates that you have, like 21 days, 28 days. Like, things take months or weeks to go through. And then, but court cases in family law, which don't seem like they should take that long because not that much into it, take years. And it seems like there's absolutely no good reason. And it's because they're not following like the rules, right? Like, they just do it on their own.
The deadlines are for you, for your client, right? The deadlines are, you look at the rules of civil procedure, a petitioner shall, the respondent shall, the parties have so many days, but it says nothing, very little about time that the judges have to rule, right? Now, the juvenile code is pretty specific for the DHR cases and CPS cases, but the regular divorce cases, you can file an emergency motion. It can sit there and sit and sit and sit. So
for forever.
Depends who's filing it, I'm sure.
Do you know? So. Oh, I was gonna say, Zach, you're doing South Dakota, but there is a time constraint for judges on orders here in Wyoming. I can't remember how many days I want to say it's 26 days after trial. I'm probably completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's that.
Well, like, they just changed some laws in Wyoming. The Supreme Court actually changed some laws they used to allow that judges could make 3 or 4 decisions on every single family law case. So you could go to family law and the judge would rule it out in 3 different decisions. Like, he'd have a separate decision for child support, a separate decision for parenting time. And so then you have to appeal all or a portion of those then decisions to the appeals court. And that's how judges are going about, or we're going about, at least in Wyoming, to detour losers in custody court from filing appeals, right? Because now you got to file 3 appeals if you want to appeal your case. And for a judge, it's just, it's the same paperwork for them. It's not any more work. But for you, it ends up being, tens of thousands of more dollars to be able to do something along those lines. And they ruled it to be unconstitutional in Wyoming. But I would imagine that that's something that they do all over the place. Has that happened to you and seen it in Alabama?
Yeah, they can piecemeal orders. You can get what's called penente light orders or temporary orders, where that lay out, a temporary custody schedule. But no, the judges can piecemeal things. In fact, I have a case right now that is being piecemealed where the parties are divorced, but we haven't decided the issue of property yet. So they're divorced, but they still own all the property together as if they were married. There's different reasons for that. But for the most part, we do that in Alabama with temporary orders. But temporary orders tend to turn into permanent orders as well. So we have a lot of lawyers that will tell their client, look, don't worry about this. It's just temporary. We can change this later. I'm never been a fan of that because temporary orders tend to turn into permanent orders. But yeah,
you've been doing it for this long, so we'll just keep it like it is.
Yeah,
it's working for you, right?
Exactly.
It's been working for like 6 months or a year. It's fine. You're like, no.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, ridiculous.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No,
Where was that other question?
Yeah. So he says Ohio has a parameter of 11 factors for the best interest of the child. The problem, and I have not looked at this, so I'm presuming at this point, every state lays out factors. The problem is there's no real, definitions attached to those factors. That's been the problem. Is the best interest standard is so it's unconstitutionally vague.
Yeah, and then they do stuff like, this person has a better relationship with the kids, so this person wins on this factor. I've seen cases that have like that kind of language inside the decisions, and like then they're like, well, it was 7-6 on the tally, and so therefore this person wins by the 7-6, factors. But it's like, well, they're like slightly better of a parent in this section, but they're like way worse in this section. Like the criteria, it needs to be clarified. It needs to be the preponderance of it needs to be like clear and convincing evidence for something to be put in there, because these are involving kids, and we need to get rid of that preponderance of the evidence, because kids need to have both their parents. And if you make something so simple like just an accusation, then you can destroy that kid's relationship with the other parent for a year or more, and that has a lasting lifetime effect on a kid.
It's generation.
And so we can't be allowing those kind of things to happen. And it's gotten so bad, like that stuff, like the one that you brought up, Alicia, 30 people in the last year that they got protection orders against. Like,
we're gonna call out this lady.
They're putting them on everybody.
We're gonna
let's get her on.
Rip her to shreds. I promise. Not tonight, but man, this Facebook page,
I want to see it.
Sets me on fire. So bad. So bad. I was gonna say sorry. I forget it.
Okay. It's all right. I've never been a fan of attorneys who they take to social media and they brag about their wins. And there was one lawyer in particular bragged about, I got this dad full custody. And then I looked up on the computer and that mom didn't show up. It was a default, right? So that dad could have showed up alone without that lawyer and gotten full custody because the mom didn't show up. I mean, it was a default. But I've never been a fan of, we have a very, very high success rate at our law firm. We're very thorough. And yet I rarely take to social media to talk about the cases. And some people say, I think it would be motivating for others, but those are not my stories to tell. So, for her to say, I've gotten 30 protective orders in the last 12 months, it has nothing to do with those women, has nothing to do with the allegations, has nothing to do with protecting anyone. That is purely posturing that law firm in some form or fashion got that result. All right. And here's the thing, guys, this is not, results based. The one I was telling you about, the guy who got, he got arrested, bless his heart, right? He got arrested to go through criminal court. We had all these accusations. In the end, all right, in my conversation with him, and bless his heart, one of the best dads I've represented. Okay, he would call and he would say, look, can you just give me, I need 8 hours with her. Right. And the most I could do was 6. Right. So I would say, I'll give you 6, but we would sit there for 6 hours. And I can't tell you how many times I would say, listen, she's doing the wrong thing. We will not do the wrong thing. We will do the right thing. We're not going to resort to XYZ. We are going to do the right thing. Let me tell you, when we got to court, it was a 2-day trial. And we got full custody of those children. And we only got, why we had to get full custody? And I hate to say had to, but we did, because mom in the middle of litigation took the kids and ran to Georgia. Mom did that. She destroyed any opportunity for 50-50. But we had a fantastic judge who saw through everything, saw that my guy had done everything right, everything he was supposed to do, and he ended up getting custody. His story, he needs to take to social media and tell his story, because it's not my story to tell, right? He hired me to help him. We did it. And his relationship with his children is forever, knock on wood, right? Forever solid, but those lawyers who take to social media, it has always just bothered me, because that is not, I'm not going to use, Zach, I'm not going to use your story to have people call me to say, hey, look, I know what you did for Zach, because I saw, like in this other dad, I saw that the pain and the anguish, everything he went through. And it would be do such a disservice for me to reduce him to a meme and put on my page saying, yeah, another win for the Isaak law firm. So that really does bother me, those lawyers who do that, because it has nothing to do with true justice, has nothing to do with the outcome for children or families. It is purely about posturing basis. It's all it is. It's all it is.
Right.
I just want to tell her, like, you're not doing anything super special.
No.
You're kind of doing all these things and the law is in your favor. So you're charging these women all this money to kind of give them what they're probably already going to get, unless there is somebody willing to fight for dad.
Well,
like,
they brag about restraining orders, but there's no telling down the road what damage they actually did to that mother herself and to that child and to that dad. I mean, there are relationships
more than anything. Yeah.
There are relationships that are irretrievably broken because of choices that lawyer has made. That's disgusting. It is disgusting to think about that.
Well, most things
we're going to expose her.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
She's in Houston.
I know. I kind of feel like I want to go try to find her. I'm sure you've got something about her on there. So, and the thing is that she's in Houston, right? But she's not like the only one. Like, there are lawyers all over the place that do this stuff. My son's mom's lawyer was that kind of lawyer. She was all out there doing this kind of work. And actually, my son's mom, I think it would have been one of her tactics also, except for the one time we had an altercation, she went to jail for domestic violence. And so, and my judge, I even had on video, and my judge excused her assaulting me on video and hitting me and striking me, saying that I was the cause of it because I took a video of her, and that my video of her was the reason that I got hit, and so therefore justified. Take your licks and keep going. So
it was reactive abuse, Zach.
I know.
Oh, I mean, I've had clients that were worried. They say, what if the judge gets mad at me for making a recording? I said, then you tell him, my lawyer told me to record it, right? And so there's been like, and you, don't you think it was, antagonistic for you to record? You record her? Who told you to record? And they're like, my lawyer did. Man, I'll throw my fist up. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. You sure did. I sure did. And then the truth comes out, doesn't it? The truth comes out. I've never understood why people are so against recordings, or like the state of Florida, you can't record unless both people know. Why? The truth is right here. You want to know the truth of the conversation? We could spend 4 hours litigating what was said in this conversation, or you can just hit play right now, right?
Right.
So, recordings, but I mean, some judges do not like it. I tell my client, listen, of course they can do what they want, right? But if you have a judge who doesn't like recordings, but then you have someone who's going to make false allegations, I would rather get my butt chewed, right, for recording, right, legally recording, than be arrested for something I didn't do that I could prove through a recording. I can't tell you how many men were saved from going to jail because when the police got there, they replayed the recordings. And then, one case in particular, right, at the top of my head, the wife banged her head against the bedpost. Okay, so when the cops got there, she had blood on her head. She said he did this. He videoed her doing this. Right, she was intoxicated, and the police took her to they did take her to get medical attention. Then she went to the jail. But had he not had that video, he was
going to jail.
And the police officer told him that. So I mean, there's judges out there like I just don't like recordings. Yeah, well, I don't like lies either. Right?
There you go.
I'm more offended by lies than I am somebody making a recording.
Right. Judges like lies. Lies are easier to deal with. So recordings,
because you can have discretion with lies, right? You can have discretion.
Yeah. I can believe what I want.
I'm gonna be busy all day.
Yeah.
When it could be in and out, they're like, I'm gonna be here all day instead of in and out.
I know a lot of the laws we're going to are equal shared parenting, and we had a couple questions people talking about equal shared parenting. Is that the best approach you think for making these things changed around the country? Is each state making a law like that?
Yeah, I think it is. And there has to be, and I saw there was a comment as to, the language regarding this, or should there be a presumption of shared parenting? And a lot of what these bills are trying to do is they take the language out of the Supreme Court case law, right? There's a Supreme Court case that says that, parents are presumed to act in the best interest of their children. Okay, the presumption's already there. And that's what I tell some of these judges and these legislators, like, do you think we should presume that? I think we should, because it's already the law, right? It's the Supreme Court already says parents are presumed to act in the best interest of their children. So we pull that language out of the Supreme Court cases. That's already law. It's good law. It's more persuasive with the legislators. And I think, there was, I posted something, one of my friends sent it to me. It was a 18-month-old and a jealous girlfriend poured acetone down the baby's throat, like made the baby drink acetone. The baby ended up dying, right? And the mother apparently had gone to the court and said, hey, I think my daughter's being abused over there. The courts didn't do anything. And mom is on a mission now, like, to get justice for her daughter. Horrible story, right? But not every parent is fit. I mean, so having a presumption means that presumption is rebuttable, which means you can bring in evidence. But, right, if there's evidence of abuse, if there's evidence of, certainly we should never place a child with a child abuser. Certainly, there are some parents who don't need their children in their care. I think they're the rare parent. I think the vast majority of parents are fine, but there are the rare parents. But I think where we get caught is, even with that language, people are still bringing in these BS complaints or the BS critiques about their spouse, their ex-spouse, or the environment. But understand, you guys, this is a court process, right? Allegations are allegations. Allegations are not evidence, okay? You can have the allegation, but the allegation has to be backed up by evidence. But having a presumption of equality, at least what it does from the onset, is it sets that bar right in the middle. Okay, these parents are on equal footing. If I don't hear anything that dad is unfit, if I don't hear anything that mom is unfit, then the needle's not going to move. We're going to keep it here. But is there a perfect system? Nope. There's no perfect system, you guys. There is not. And we're trying to work with what we have right now. And we have some very good Supreme Court precedent. We have very good Supreme Court precedent, but we have to plug that language. We have to take it out of those case laws and plug it into some statutes. And then that's what's really helping these. Look, when I first started this, guess how many states had 50-50 parenting? Okay. No, none.
Right.
Kentucky first, none. And Kentucky, they were trailblazing way, back in the day. Arkansas now has a fantastic 50-50 bill. They have great advocates down there. So it's doable. It's very, very doable. But but you got the language is never going to be perfect. And it never. And we have a lobby who's lobbying against us, right? We have a lot of these feminists are against us. The DV industry is against us. But we have
Right. Yeah, and everybody that works for, like, the State Department, the Department of Social Services, and all those people, they know they get paid. They know how they get paid, and it's by having families be separated. They don't get paid in other means. Like, their jobs only get to continue to be there, and everything, their budget being fat, because they have kids who are separated from one parent for profit, and so they continue to keep doing that. Like the reunification stuff, it's just. I have a guy that I work with and stuff all the time, and he's got 6 kids with 5 different baby mamas.
Yeah.
should take your advice, but and just gone through the ringer every single time. And then the judges have used the fact that he doesn't have custody of other kids as reasons that he shouldn't get custody of kids that are in bad spots. And they keep reunifying these kids with the moms who are going to jail and getting the kids taken, and 2, 3, 4 times that kids are being taken, the same kid being taken in as many years, and still the DFS and the judge, turn right back around and say, you know what, we're gonna let the mom have him again because she's gonna do the right thing this time, And it's like, when's a person's history actually come back and show that they are not doing the right thing, and they can't do what it needs to be done for their kids. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the idea? The Texas law that Robert Garza and stuff they worked on this year for time taken, time returned. Do you think that will help out a lot in these kind of cases to have that kind of a statute in place? Do you think that's something
I do think it's good because at least, these allegations aren't made with impunity. And I think that's been one of my biggest criticisms is, okay, you have these allegations. Dad hasn't seen kids in 5 months. Allegations go away. Oh, okay, well, no harm, no foul. No, that's 5 months. That's 5 months there. So at least there's something, at least there's some recourse at the end of it that dad can recover some of that time. So it's, and you're never going to, the time back is good because it does address that. But my concern about that is once people know that, you have the legislators know, the judges that know that, and if there's discretion, the discretion might be abused a little bit so that law is not invoked. All right. So, and that's the thing with family laws. How do you, the question is, so how do you get away from discretion? How do you get away from discretion? Do we go to like guidelines, kind of like the criminal courts have, like sentencing guidelines? My answer is, yeah, maybe we do. Maybe we do. Yeah. Maybe we say,
I think we do.
Maybe, we have, different schedules, but maybe we say, okay, Dad, give me your schedule. Mom, give me your schedule. And we shuffle it together. We say, you know what? Dad has X amount of hours free. Mom has X amount of hours free. I'm going to figure out, maybe guideline it to some extent. Now we have, well, I just don't think that, it's to the best interest of the child to be in the car for 20 minutes, to school with Dad when it only takes 7 minutes with Mom. You know what? That's some good quality time. That 20 minutes that Dad takes that child to school, there's conversation, there's bonding, there's a lot that goes on. But again, where we're left with discretion. So how do you get away with that? And if the judges have the discretion that they have, there should at least be some checks on the other side in terms of, entering orders but there just isn't. I mean, there's some cases where, my clients are like, what the hell? And I'm like, ask my question. Like, what the hell? Like, where are you, Judge? You on vacation? What are you doing?
Right.
I've gone to the Court of Appeals. We have a good relationship with the Court of Appeals. Like I've gone there more the last 3 years than I probably have the previous. Well, I probably doubled my appeals filed in the last 3 years than I did the 3 years previous.
Awesome.
And I don't
That's
know,
good.
I don't know if the judges are just lazy. I don't know what it is, but they're making careless mistakes. I mean, I had a judge in Florida make a mistake today. It's reversible error. I don't know how damning it is really, but you have the law in front of them. It's frustrating because you say, Judge, you can't do that. Here's the law saying that you can't do it, why you can't do it and what you need to do. And then I had a judge just, it was, well, I guess now 46 days ago now, right? Say, okay, now just all out denied what we said and just granted what the wife wanted. Well, it was reversible error. So, it was yesterday, the Court of Appeals ordered them to respond and explain themselves, which was fantastic. Okay. So it's nice when you say, Judge, you can't do that. You have to do X, Y, Z. They tell me no. And then the Court of Appeals comes back and says, you have to do X, Y, Z. But
you have to.
And it's hard in family law because there's so much discretion and as a lawyer and as a litigant, you really have to know, first of all, make your record. I can't say that enough times, but you have to know what your rights are. You have to, put your evidence on paper, put everything on paper. And and every single case we have, we set up as if we're going to the Court of Appeals. Every single case, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. No. I think one of the things, getting rid of discretion is such a big thing for these judges and stuff. Having an opportunity. I mean, I think in a lot of areas, discretion is great, but in this area, it's just like the idea of like how many times you can hold a person in contempt before they actually get penalized. And I've talked to dads all over the country over and over again who talk about, I've done it 7 times and I've done it, a dozen times. I've held them in contempt. And they've gotten a slap on the wrist every single time. And at what point in time is a slap on the wrist obviously not being effective? And having like just a clear-cut thing, then the judge doesn't have to have the thought about it. They can just follow what the guidelines give them and say, okay, well, hey, this is your first time, it's a slap on the wrist. Second time, it's a fine. Third time, it's a bigger fine. Fourth time, you go to jail for a weekend.
Yep, I had a case not quite a year and a half ago. But the mother, we had hearing after hearing after hearing where she was violating his visitation. So finally I said, Judge, I said, I'm going to need for you to give me some guidance, because at this point I am going to stop telling him that you're going to do the right thing. I'm going to stop telling him that your orders of contempt mean something. And I'm going to stop telling him that us coming back here is any sort of, that he's going to get any relief. So at this point, I need you to tell me what to tell him, because I no longer am going to tell him that you're going to do the right thing. All right. And we just looked at each other. All right.
Right.
Judge at that point, said, give us 10 minutes. And then when we came back, she switched custody.
Huh? I thought she was going to throw you in jail. But.
Well, I mean, I've never had a judge say, Miss Isaac, he's like, if you keep talking, I'm going to hold you in contempt, put you in jail. I'm like, well, do what you got to do, right? I'm going to make my record. I never went to jail because I was right, but I have been threatened with that on more than one occasion. But it's difficult as an attorney, because I never ever advocate for my clients to break the law. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Okay, that's going to hurt them in the end. Right. So, I mean, I have gotten to the point now, and I've been doing this long enough. The judges know me, right? I just tell them, look, here's what the law says. I understand it. I explained to my client. I've tried to explain it to you, right? So my next stop is the Court of Appeals if you keep doing this. I mean, just to be blunt, just put it out there, because there's no other relief. There's nothing else I could do. Like I tell my clients, I file motions. That's what I do. That's all I can do. I can't drive to the judge's house. Okay. I can't kick their door in. All I can do as attorney is give you advice and file things with the court. That's what I do. I'll file briefs. So it gets very frustrating as an attorney when the judges abuse their discretion, or when there's very little avenues for us to make sure that the judges are doing their job, because the legislatures apparently don't want to put anything in place to make sure they're doing their jobs. Mm-hmm. So it's frustrating.
I think Elizabeth was talking about the judges and them pushing back on changing bills and that kind of stuff. And judges, I mean, there's a small group of judges, right? And legislatures know who all the judges are. So they get probably preferential treatment when they go in front of the legislature and talk to them about what they want to see things being done as. I mean, they wouldn't put it on the books, and no one's going to go out there and quote it. Well, I talked to this judge and he told me that I should be doing this, so that's what I'm doing. But it happens, and they get to have those days, and any legislator is going to get a chance to meet with a judge is going to take it. I mean, if I can get a chance to talk to somebody who's got that power and influence, I want to be in front of that person because they can help me out. Mm-hmm. And I think the legislators know who butters their bread, and lawyers give a lot of money to political campaigns, and the average dad out there does not support people running for office. They're not necessarily, you might give $20 or something like that, but you don't have the big pockets usually to go out there and fund a campaign like these judges or lawyers can do.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that, we have to keep a presence with the legislators. We have to keep the presence, the time taken, time back bill is it's a good bill. And it is the first of probably 30 bills that need to be introduced. Okay, but we need some judicial accountability. We really need judicial accountability because, going back to, clients, they come to me and say, well, now what? Well, I can file another motion. And so, like I said, we've been at the Court of Appeals quite a few times. But some of the laws just aren't there, just like, hey, I can't record in a courtroom, right? I'm not allowed to do that. So they have a court reporter there, but then they won't give me the transcript. What am I supposed to do? I'm on a 42-day deadline. What am I supposed to do? So, the Court of Appeals can't write law. Judges can't write law. So this is something that I was talking to some other attorneys about. We need to do something to get a bill in place where at least we have access to transcripts. If you're telling me I can't record, if you're telling me I can't bring any recording devices in here, then don't withhold the only court sanctioned one that you do have, Or we just did a mandamus earlier this year of a judge who in his order said there shall be no court reporter present. Okay. No, that's not what the law says. Okay. The law says you provide a court reporter, judge, right? So judge says no, go to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals is like, the order was fantastic. The order, to summarize, it said like, what the hell, give him a court reporter. Like the law says you provide a court reporter. So there's just all these unnecessary fights. Like, why are we arguing about this? This man is having a trial, and you're saying no court reporter. No, the law says different. Give him a damn court reporter. And why do we have to go all the way to Court of Appeals? Why do we have to write a 65-page brief about why he needs a court reporter? I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. So, but anyway, yeah. I could complain for.
Did you read that over there? That's what who said that? Connie had said that. And well, she said cameras, but same thing. I mean, no difference.
I think
cameras.
We have technology now. We don't need to have transcribers in the courtrooms, and they mess stuff up. I mean, I tried to get some stuff about what things my judge said about it in my trial in one of our hearings, because it was absolutely unbelievably inappropriate, I thought. And I wanted to get a copy of the transcript. So I paid the money for my transcript, right? I got my transcripts back. Well, that part wasn't in there.
Yep.
Conveniently.
Now, you might want to check in your state. They also make recordings, is my understanding.
Okay.
See if you can get a copy of the recording.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I'll check it out.
I had filings and, communications from the judge too here in Wyoming that said, I think as far as for hearings and scheduling hearings, that, a court reporter would be available if requested.
Yes.
So if both parties requested it, then it's reported. But
yeah. And so
I guess
the
if
law,
somebody doesn't want them.
Yeah.
But I mean, you pay so much money now for a court reporter. I don't know what they charge. They charge a lot of money to get the reports. So I imagine they still get paid a lot of money just from the court themselves to do their work and transcribe it for the courts. But we have AI is incredibly powerful and efficient. You can just have a camera in there, and an AI can actually transcribe every single thing that's said by anybody at whatever speed they might speak it at, or in any language, and transcribe it out perfectly, whereas a person cannot. And if you have an AI doing it, there's no opportunity to fudge stuff to protect my boss who's out here, saying things that he shouldn't be saying. But you know what? I don't have to even write that in there, and no one will know if I don't put it in the transcripts.
Yeah.
It would just be his word against the judge, right? And it's your judge against the guy who lost. The guy who lost is going to lose again because you believe judges. So
well, not just that. There's that, but then also I bought a transcript a couple weeks ago, $5 per page.
Yeah.
$5 a page.
Yeah. I spent thousands of dollars on transcripts for my court case and stuff, and I never used them. But I thought that I might, and I have them saved in a file.
It's like people go ahead. Sorry. People have a trial, right? Or a hearing, whatever it is. And then they want to appeal. But that transcript, I think that's what usually stops everybody. Mm-hmm. They're either not going to get it in time or they can't afford it. And it's just the transcript because it costs so much money.
Mm-hmm.
And with the recording devices and video cameras, I mean, you think about a couple years ago when everybody went virtual for everything. And there's a certain amount of stuff in Wyoming, they're still doing that way. It costs the city money to bring the people from the jail to the courthouse to have their hearings. And so some of those hearings, criminal court wise, they still do, basically over Zoom. But
I mean, if I was a judge, I would want cameras in there. I would want, because if somebody accused me of something or saying she said X, Y, Z, and I didn't say that, I would want something in there to say, no, here's what happened and here's what actually was said. You would have asked me 15 years ago when I first started, what percentage of people you think within the legal industry are bad? I would have said maybe 10%. Now, 15 years later, let's reverse that. That's how much faith I have in court actors at this point. I was talking to a judge about a month ago, and I said, some of the orders that I've seen have been absolutely egregious, and he completely agreed with me. So, there are some good judges out there. There's some fantastic judges out there, but I think they try to fly below the radar. Maybe, I don't know, but I will say this: the judges are getting better. When we get these younger judges, especially the younger female judges, specifically the younger Black female judges, have been fantastic. So we're having conversations about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got the younger Black female judges. I mean, they see right through them. They see right through these women coming in. They're like, no, I'm we'll call them out, like verbally call them out. And then I saw something from the American Bar Association. They did a study, and the most consistent judges were the Black female judges, actually. So I'm like, well, yeah, that's what I see as well. But we're getting younger judges up here, I think, who maybe were products of divorce, who probably, didn't understand why they couldn't see their parent or whatever, but, and grew up with more of the environment where people are talking about 50-50 and all this. And so they're taking that on the bench, but we still have a long way to go, right? We still have quite a ways to go. So
that's good to know that you're seeing a little bit better come out. Yeah. That's good to know. But what you just said a minute ago, that it's kind of crushing from an attorney practicing very hard in the field. That's crushing information. I thought you were going to say like 50-50,
no.
80-20-ish.
Maybe I shouldn't say bad people. I should say maybe people who don't care, maybe apathetic people. People who don't care about how their advocacy or what they do impacts other people's lives. One of my lawyers had mediation today, she called, actually it was yesterday, but she said the other attorney kind of like had a meltdown and said, I don't care. I don't care about this. I'm not doing this anymore. This is my last DR case. I have to drink just to keep my blood pressure down. I have to drink just to get through the day. And she said he kind of had this, and she's a brand new lawyer, been barred about 6 months, but had this mini meltdown, like right there in mediation. And she was like, okay, well, could you care for like maybe the next hour? Like, let's get through this. We've got kids involved. We've got, it just blew her mind, but she's been here for 6 months. So she's got a lot of experience ahead of her. Right.
Wow. But I had this vision of what this court was going to be like. And now I'm here in the circus that is the court is actually driving me nuts.
We've had the conversations. Yeah, we've had the conversation. But it's just the lawyers who actually care. You don't see them. I mean, a win to them, a win, no matter what the result is, no matter what the consequence to children, to the families, to whatever, to employment, doesn't matter. They get to say, yeah, I got so-and-so full custody. No, you didn't. You're a detriment to society is what you are. But nobody, that there's so much apathy within the family law attorneys. It's sad.
Right. I when I was applying for jobs while I was in law school, I went to one of the law firms and stuff, and they asked because my nonprofit's kids are dads, and I was doing all that work on it. And the lady that was interviewing me was like, I think that family law lawyers aren't real lawyers, and I was like, well, I tend to agree, and but I'm only in law school because that's really my intention is to help out kids have both their parents in their lives, and I'm committed to doing that, and that's what I'm here for. And family law is kind of a circus and maybe not real law like contracts or trust and estates, but it's necessary, and I'm going to do it. I didn't get that job either. Pretty sure I was destined to not get that job in the moment she said, you know what? Family law, you're not a real attorney.
Oh, yeah. And there is a hierarchy in the attorney world. Like we all know it. I mean, you got the PI attorneys that have their billboards up and, they're making 7 figures easily every year. And then you've got the family law attorneys. Like I've referred to us as the catfish of the lawyer world. I mean, I'm not, I recognize the hierarchy. Like I get it, But
you're not, others are. Not you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I feel like
those other ones
half the time, but
it's definitely
you're
definitely not you.
You're still in the club, whether you're above the club or not. You're associated with those actors and stuff. But Melissa, what do you have planned for the future? What's some of the things you got going on now, and what are things that you want the followers and people that are watching today to know going forward?
As far as my firm, I'll probably be taking on a couple partners. I've got lawyers that have been with me for a long time, have proven themselves. They're tried and true, advocates. And it's been a long 15 years, being an owner, operator, / everything, being in the courtroom. And it's been a lot. So, I've got a couple attorneys now, and I'll introduce you guys to them as well. Who've been absolute fantastic advocates. And, I like getting them straight out of law school because they don't have any bad habits or like, they work somewhere else. They don't have any bad ethics that they bring over with them. So, I like they call them baby lawyers, right? I like getting babies right out of law school, and then we raise them up. And these are two that have really shown fantastic, promise. And so the firm will be expanding in that they will be coming on and we want to start doing more stuff, so I'm a JAG in the reserve component, right? And so
we didn't even get into that. I wanted to a little bit.
I'm a JAG in reserve component, so like I want to start helping some veterans out with some of their claims. And so there's so many aspects to divorce, and divorce affects people in so many different ways. So we want to try to start helping them in these other ways that we can help them as well. So there's that. And maybe down the line, getting on the other side of the bench. Okay. That certainly would be a consideration. I think that would be a big thing for me, because we not necessarily looking at one case at a time. All right. That's be affecting maybe every single case that was able to come through. So, maybe that. So, yeah. So we'll see.
Wow.
We get to call Zach a baby attorney here soon. Hopefully.
He's a baby lawyer. He is. He's
a baby. Yeah, I'm about to.
We call him.
I did
never heard that before. That's awesome.
Questions last week. So my goal this week is to do 600 questions to practice for the bar exam this week. So I'm putting in the work right now. This is like my break time. I had my son for an hour today, and then here with you guys. This is a chance to recoup and get my energy back up so I can go back and study some more. So I'm going to study until I go to bed tonight, because that's how I'm rolling right now. So
for the days, yeah.
The good old times, right? You could get your law license up here in South Dakota, Melissa, if you want to, and you can study with me. Think about it.
Now, so I'm from North Dakota. My family's up there, and I intentionally have not gotten barred in North Dakota, right? Because I don't need to get the calls. Hey, could you file? I'm sorry, I'm not licensed up there.
Right.
Yeah.
I cannot
barring reciprocity, Melissa, if I have to take another bar exam, won't be taking another bar exam. If there's reciprocity, maybe. Other than that, I don't think so.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't blame you. My intention is to do it again in July. So I'm going to do it in February, and I'm doing it again in July since I've been studying so hard.
Yeah.
And I'll do the UBE states. So hopefully I can get 37. I think, is Florida in that? Alabama?
Florida will not. Alabama is. Florida will not. No, Florida won't.
So to do a Florida bar exam also if I want to do Florida?
Florida is separate. I think Florida, New York, and California is my understanding. They won't reciprocate with anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. South Dakota doesn't either, so there's no reciprocity in South Dakota. So if I want to do the ones around me, I got to do it in other states. So I will be in Wyoming for 2 days in July just to take the bar exam again. Trevor Glutton, but it'll be great. So, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on today. What do you have? You have anything most, Melissa?
Yes, I was going to ask her a question.
Go for it.
Just if you probably can't spurt out a bunch of names and do a lot of recommendations right here, right now. But if anybody were to contact your firm and they're in a different state, do you have friends or people you trust in other states that are practicing attorneys that you might be able to recommend to them because they work as hard as you and okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
In some states I don't. Some states I used to have recommendations until they mishandled a case, and so I would recommend them anymore. But yeah, we do. We do recommend refer to other attorneys in a few other states. So yeah, depending.
That's good.
Maybe able to help.
Good. That's good. A lot of people might be looking for that. So
yeah.
Good information.
Yeah, where can people find you, Melissa?
Our website is protectingmen.com. And we have a very large Facebook social media page, Isaak Law Firm Attorneys for Men. And we're not on any other social media. We will be pretty soon because, I've got some younger partners coming on and they're a lot more social media savvy than I am. And
also, TikTok?
You know what? So it was funny. So it was a couple of years ago. Apparently I went viral on TikTok. So I, did a speech at a conference. I think it's 7 million views. So I'm getting all these hey, you're viral on TikTok. I'm like, no, it wasn't me. I'm not on TikTok. So I'm not even on TikTok.
But it was you.
Yeah. So I've heard that from several people. So maybe get on TikTok. I will not be handling the TikTok page, but I'm sure that's coming as well. Yeah.
The media manager. Yes.
Definitely.
Cool. Awesome.
It's a lot of work. Well, I love all the time I get with you, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here today. I think a lot of people got a lot of benefit from this. There's a lot of questions being answered. Yeah, it was just wonderful. So I really appreciate you coming on and being here. And thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful night.
You're welcome. You too. It's good to see you guys again.
Yeah. All right. See you.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Thank you.
All right. Should we end that right there? I'm going to end it right there.